What if instead of dinosaurs, you made your game about bicycles? What if you added like worker placement? What if you could bid for first player? What if you made this more like a Euro? What if you made this an 18 card game? What if you had a solo mode? What if you had a 2-player mode? What if I could draw 2 cards instead of 1? What if you turned it into like a deck builder? What if we gave better feedback? This is the first time I backtracked on my trip and come back to a place that I had previously passed. I passed this place yesterday. I'm in the Rocky Mountains in Dillon, Colorado, and this is by far the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. There is water and mountains and clouds and sunshine, and it is beautiful all the time, and I have no complaints about this. Wow. All right, so my 2 least favorite words in any feedback session are what and if. Now, I previously put out a video about what I think good playtesting feedback looks like. If we are relating our personal experiences about the game, if we're hitting our highs and lows, talking about what was fun and what wasn't fun, then I think that's really great, valuable feedback. On the flip side, I think offering suggestions is generally, well, not. First of all, especially if a suggestion is like the first piece of feedback that you get, then the entire feedback session essentially gets derailed. Instead of talking about the experience that people actually had in front of them, instead they talk about the suggestion. They talk about what could be instead of what was. Then all of a sudden we are taken out of the playtest experience and we're now in like this brainstorming mode, and we're talking about this new idea and how could it work or how would it not work. And so me as a designer, I'm no longer getting feedback about the experience that I put in front of people. Instead, I'm getting feedback about this possibly brilliant, probably flawed idea. What's important for playtesters to do is to talk about the experience they had and not speculate on experiences that they did not have. That's the only way a designer is going to get good, honest, critical feedback about their work. Problem number 2 with all of this is, of course, that it's super rude. I would never, under any circumstances, go into a writing group, read someone's short story, and then be like, you know what, hold on a second. Take the short story from them, cross out a paragraph, rewrite it in my own words, and then give it back to them and somehow be like, hey, I fixed it. Because I didn't. That's not how design works. That's not how creativity works. That's not how writing works. That's so offensive and just absolutely condescending to think that you have the solution, or that the way that you design a game or the way that you write a paragraph is just infinitely better than the way that other people are going to do that. Problem number 3, and this might be actually the biggest problem with the whole concept of offering suggestions as feedback, and that is that suggestions don't actually address what's wrong with the game. The reason that I emphasize so strongly that good feedback is relating your personal experience, relating your highs and your lows, where you were engaged, where you were having fun, and where you weren't having fun, is because that method of giving feedback is going to communicate to the designer what might be wrong with their game. If I say I didn't feel like I had a lot of choices, that's a really direct piece of feedback. If I say, what if I could draw 5 cards on my turn instead of 3? Or if I say, what if I had infantry and tanks? Well, we don't know what I'm talking about there. We'll take the infantry tank example. If I say, what if I had infantry and tanks? I could be saying I was bored during combat. I could be saying that I wanted more choices during combat. I could be saying that combat didn't seem complex enough for me. I could be saying that I just like different little bits. But the designer doesn't know that. The designer doesn't know which of those things, or any of the other possibilities I haven't even thought of in my little off-the-cuff example here, are actually what's wrong with the game. If I, as a playtester, can figure out why I want to make a suggestion and I can just offer my sort of reason instead of the actual suggestion, then I think that's more valuable feedback. But if I give a designer a suggestion, it's then up to the designer to have to sort of parse out why that suggestion was being made in the first place. And I don't think we should do that. I think it'd be better if we just expressed how we felt and didn't offer these kind of ridiculous suggestions. Now, should you never make suggestions? I mean, generally there are exceptions to every rule. And in this case, yeah, it's fine to make suggestions sometimes, under a few circumstances. The first is, suggestions should never be the very first part of feedback. I think the very first part of feedback should always be that sort of honest, here's how I experienced the game. After everyone has given their feedback, then might be an okay time to ask, hey, are you open to suggestions? And that part to me is mandatory. If the designer is not open to suggestions, why are you giving suggestions? If the designer is open to suggestions, cool. I've definitely had brainstorming sessions after feedback sessions, and those are valuable sometimes, and especially when I'm looking for them or I don't have an answer. And I think this happens a lot. I think what I'm really getting at is that if your very first piece of feedback is a suggestion, that's a problem. This is Board Game Bike from Dillon, Colorado, in quite possibly the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. Peace. As designers, as people that are really into this all the time, we're constantly playtesting each other's games, and I think we owe it to each other to elevate our level of feedback. My hair is just wild. Give me feedback on my hair. Do you have suggestions? No, don't give me suggestions. Just give me feedback. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Does it look like I'm at like 8,000 to 9,000 feet and I'm suffering from altitude sickness? This is such a beautiful spot. I don't want to leave it. Dillon, Colorado. If I ever actually take a real vacation, that's not riding my bike, I'm just gonna come back here